Notre Dame, and I've seen this circulating, Notre Dame does not have a complacency problem. They have a problem on offense. And it's really a little bit deeper than what people would like to probably acknowledge. I mean, we're talking about a situation in which Northern Illinois was able to outgain them by 100 yards. They held on to the ball 9 minutes longer, and they were able to kind of run the clock down and kick the game winner. And they, there was a lot of things, and you really kind of look at it like, I mean, the call, and like, we don't need to talk about that or whatnot, like spot of the ball or whatever. Like that's hindsight. What happened is what it is. But now this is multiple times in which we've seen teams go in there with an adequate defense that have completely stymied up what Notre Dame is offensively, whether it was Marshall or Stanford or NIU, all those big, massive underdogs that have now gone in there. People are focusing on that. People are focusing on the fact that, well, Notre Dame got complacent after their win against Texas A&M. I don't agree with that. I think the problem for Notre Dame is that this is now 29 games that Marcus Freeman has coached. And this is the 7th time in which they scored 21 or fewer points. 21 or fewer, guys. Okay? Their record in those games in which they scored 21 or fewer is 1-6. So I'd like for you just for a moment, and for you Notre Dame fans, just for a moment, and we were all super pumped about the hire from Mike Denbrock, right? But it's players over plays. Always. Like, you can have the greatest offensive XO game plan playbook in the world. And it doesn't matter if you don't have players that can execute it at an insanely high level. So let's just for a second acknowledge that Mike Denbrock is a great offensive mind and a great offensive coordinator. But at some point, they're going to have to adjust offensively. It might be in their recruiting. It might be the type of guys they target in the portal, their priorities in the portal. Like, they're going to have to adjust. And if they want to win championships, you need to look at their offensive personnel. Let's look at the teams that currently occupy the top 10. Ohio State. How do Notre Dame's weapons compare to Ohio State? I'll just save you the time before you look it up. It's not a favorable comparison for the Irish. What about Georgia? Weapons, quarterback. Who has the advantage? Georgia by a mile, right? Well, let's keep going down the list. Ole Miss, Alabama, Missouri. You're going to say, well, Brady Cook, Riley Leonard. Fair enough. I think Brady Cook's actually a highly efficient passer. And look at the weapons that they have on the perimeter. Okay, Oregon. I know they're struggling a little bit too, but Dylan Gabriel, weapons. Miami, Cam Ward, weapons. Penn State, they're in the top 10. Drew Aller was a super highly regarded prospect, and it appears, I know their defense had a terrible first half last week, but it appears like they have weapons. Like, if you want to win a national championship, guys, you have to have super elite weapons. You have to. There's a reason. There's a reason why right now, and this has changed. This did not used to be the case. Okay. This was not that way 7, 8, 10, 12 years ago. There's a reason why in the NFL right now, wide receivers are making $30+ million a year. There's a reason why that is. And it's because that position has gone from being a really, really nice thing to have to an absolute necessity if you want to be an elite team with a dynamic offense. I'll take you back just a little bit further. Joe Burrow was drafted the first overall pick in 2020, right? Played in 2020, tore up his knee. Offensive line for Cincinnati was atrocious. This is, I don't know if people follow this, but like, they were awful. They had one of the worst offensive lines in the NFL. And then, sure enough, we fast forward to 2021, the NFL draft in 2021. Joe Burrow is firmly entrenched as the starter for the Cincinnati Bengals. And Cincinnati's sitting there on the clock. And they can draft Penei Sewell or Jamar Chase. Remember, their quarterback's coming off a season-ending knee injury and have the worst offensive line in the sport. And yet they're sitting there on the clock with the top wide receiver and the top tackle available. What did they take? The top wide receiver. Why? Because receiver might be more valuable to the offense nowadays than having a game-changing offensive line. It sounds crazy, but it's the reality. And if you look at Notre Dame, their weapons, when compared to the other teams that are championship contenders, they currently don't compare.